We're on page 61 in Halakha Bara in Yud Gimel. You see that in the middle of the page?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were saying that a person should be just as careful with the water they use for Netilat Yadayim in the morning as they are with the water that you use for bread when you wash your hands for bread, because the water you use to wash your hands for bread, there are many more requirements you have to fill for that water to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you don't need to fill those requirements in the morning, but if you can, it's much better to. Practically, the fact that we have water with sinks and all those, it's a very easy thing to do, unless you're like a soldier or you're on a camping trip or something like that. But for most of us, it's a
non-issue.
It's not really even an issue. Mayim shayu b'toch kli, water that were inside of a vessel, a cup, a container, or whatever it is. V'huchnesu leveit hakiseh, and they were brought into the bathroom.
What was brought to the bathroom?
Water was brought into the bathroom.
They didn't have indoor plumbing.
Afilu haya hakli mechuseh, even if the cup was covered, meaning it's a sealed container, a water bottle, whatever it is. Nachon le'achmir, it's proper to be stringent. Im efshar shelo litol yadav, if you cannot wash your hands b'mayim elu with this water. Ben netilat yadayim shacharit, whether to use them for washing your hands in the morning, uven netilat yadayim lesuda, or washing your hands for a meal. Very good. Uven netilat yadayim b'tzeto mibet hakiseh, and also when you wash your hands when you're coming out of the bet hakiseh, the bathroom.
And for sure not to drink.
For sure?
Not to drink.
Oh, that's the next word. And also it's proper, lachmir, to be stringent, shelo lishtot mayim elu, not to drink this water either. So according to the Zohar, and many of our mekubalim, the bathroom is one of the most impure places in the world. There are certain demons that only live in the bathroom according to the Zohar. There are certain ruach ra'ah, an evil spirit that only rests inside of the bathroom. Bichlal, a person shouldn't spend too much time in the bathroom. A person...
You're talking about New York subway bathrooms.
No, I'm talking about here in Ireland. Not hygiene, I'm talking here about spiritual hygiene. Also about the Ben Ish Chai says a person be very careful not to leave the door open when they go to the bathroom, not just for tzniut reasons, but also so that the whatever ruach ra'ah is there doesn't spread into the house, so on and so forth. How much more so things that come into the bathroom? One should be very careful to not use them for any purpose, as we're seeing now. Now again, this is not in this section of halakha, rather a proper thing to do according to the Mekubalim. Uv'shat atchak, and in a pressing time, like it's an urgent time, like you're somewhere where you don't have other water, or you're rushing somewhere, or whatever it is, there of Shabbat, you can't go find more, whatever is happening, the plumbing is not working, you had to use this, but think of reasons. Kagon she'en lo mayim acherim litol be'em yadav, meaning kagon, for example, she'en lo, he does not have, mayim acherim, other water, litol, to wash behem with them, yadav, his hands. Yesh la'akel, one can be lenient, litol yadav b'mayim elu, to wash his hands with this water. Vivarech b'shem u'malchut, and a person should bless. Do you know what this term b'shem u'malchut means? Have we spoken about it?
The name of kingdom, in main name of
it means the name and malchut, kingdom. Let's look at the formula of the bracha. You have baruch, ata, right? And then you have, that's the blessing. Baruch is the blessing. Baruch has been starting off the bracha. Ata Hashem,
you are...
that is called Shem, using the name of God. Mm-hmm. Elokeinu melech haolam is referred to as malchut, kingdom. Why? Because what are you saying there?
King of the world.
Melech haolam. Sometimes you'll find that a rabbi say, make a blessing, but don't make it with Shem u malchut. Mm-hmm. Say Baruch so and so, without saying Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam.
Yeah, right.
Yes, exactly. Now, on the other hand, the Gemara tells us that any blessing that you say that doesn't have Shem Malchut doesn't count for anything. Which is why, according to the Rambam, saying Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'Chol is about as useful as saying the red chair will now make me leave the Shabbat. That doesn't mean anything. And there are some poskim that are against it. But it seems that many poskim allow a person in certain situations to make blessings without Shem Malchut. Because according to some opinions of the Gemara, that counts as a blessing. So it's better to at least, fulfill some opinions than no opinions. A great example of this is when Sfaradim, we do this more often than Ashkenazim. We're afraid to make blessings for some crazy reason. And, you know what I'm talking about? Which blessing? Has to do with the nighttime. The blessing you make when you go to bed in Shema. Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam are in brackets. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they kind of hide it.
And if you say it before midnight, halachic midnight, you say it with Hashem's name. And if after midnight, you skip Hashem's name. Because after midnight, according to many opinions, is already not a time to say the Shema, it's already the beginning of the morning. In which case, you wouldn't be saying this with Hashem's name, rather you'd just be saying Baruch HaMapil. Instead of Baruch Hashem HaMapil. It's probably here. Here, you're close. See that it's in brackets?
Yeah.
And also at the end?
After Chatzot, you have to...
It's in brackets?
Right.
Have you anyone... It's in the Sephardic Torah. Ashkenazim say Hashem's name for the Almighty. It's part of the formula that you take out when you need to make a bracha you're not sure about. So here he's saying you shouldn't use the water, but if you don't have any choice, use the water and... No, what is he saying? V'yivarech b'shem u'malchut. And you should say with Hashem's name and with malchut, al netilat yadayim. Meaning, even because Kabbalah, just like it's not enough of a reason to make a bracha, right? We've spoken about this before. It's also not enough of a reason to not say a bracha. You're aware? So long as halakha allows you to say the bracha or not say the bracha, that's what you follow. The Kabbalah is only there for stringency regarding action, but not regarding brachot. Very good. Very good. See, these are our rules, by the way, principles. I was talking to my wife. We had people over at our house, and one of them was saying he was learning for smicha. So that's wonderful. You're in a kollel, yeah. Who teaches the smicha there? Nobody. Whoa. Nobody teaches. So how do you learn? Okay, then. I said, how do you learn? So he said, we all have Shulchan Aruch, and we sit together and we learn. I said, but who teaches you halakha? Nobody. Why do we need people to teach us halakha? Our whole life we've been spending learning Gemara. I said, I know, but your whole life, that's exactly why you need someone to teach you, because your whole life you spent learning Gemara. You definitely don't know how to learn halakha. He said, it's so much easier than Gemara. I said, easier? I don't know to tell you. Different? Very different. There are different rules. There's a whole different ballpark, a different set of objectives, of equations, of all kinds of things like that. I said, okay, so who's going to test you on these things? So no, so we're either going to go to this city or that city or that city, and one of the rabbis there will test us and give us a certificate.
That's not really smicha, like you were saying.
Right, like I was saying in our other class. But that seems to be, and this was a person who was being very sincere. Like they're spending a serious amount of time, a few years studying smicha. It's not like they want a quick smicha. This is how they learn it. I was telling my wife a few things. Like, I'm so bothered that that's how low learning halakha is considered. Like, you don't even need to learn it from somebody. Right. You just learn it on your own in your own free time. The second thing is, at the end of the day, when you get smicha, or any time you learn halakha, do you know why most people don't like halakha? It's not just because it's restricting and confining. Restricting, confining, and boring, all of those are all symptoms of not knowing how to learn halakha properly. Because halakha does get boring. Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. But halakha is like the culmination of a discussion that took thousands of years to have. And when you learn it from a rabbi, what you're saying is, I'm not learning halakha as a book. Halakha is a way of life. It's an approach. It's a philosophy to the world. It's the whole thing. And I told my wife, I said, I didn't learn all of Shulchan Aruch from my parents. I didn't. I got a lot of that nachat. I called them last night at 1:30 in the morning. They changed the clocks now in Israel. So I used to call him 12:30, now I have to call him 1:30. I said, Rabbi, I have a question. And I decided that I wanted to try something new. Normally I ask him a question, he gives me an answer. If I don't understand how he got to the answer, then I ask him to explain. If I understand how he got to it, okay, shalom, thank you for answering my question. This time I said, here's what I'm going to do. Obviously I have what I think is the answer to the question. Why am I calling him?
Because he's a Rabbi.
I want to know if I'm right. I want to now. I'm sure there's someone out there who'll agree with me, but it's important for me that my rabbi agrees with me. And if he doesn't agree, so I want to figure out why it is. What mistake did I make along the way that I didn't come to the same conclusion he did? So I called the Rabbi and I said, Rabbi, I want to try something new with you. I have a question. He said, okay, ask the question. Before you answer, can I tell you what I think? What I think the answer is? And he was very open. He was very excited about it. He said, please tell me. So I told him what I thought. And he was so happy. He said, that's exactly what I was going to tell you. That's the way that you should pass on halakha. So here's when I came to. I told my wife, I said, see, that's the difference. I didn't learn all of Shulchan Aruch from my parents. I didn't. How am I going to spend how much time you have to spend with the rabbi to learn all of Shulchan Aruch from him? If you think we learn slow?
Years.
Rav Peretz, I have books open up on the whole table with these things. Rav Peretz said, I don't want to teach you details. See, people teach details. You can do this on Shabbat, and you can't do this on Shabbat. You can eat this, but you can't eat that. And nobody bothers to tell people, forget the details. I can never teach you all the details.
Here's the technique.
I can teach you exactly the equations. I'm going to give you a formula. If you plug in all the proper variables into this equation, you will come out with the right answer. The problem is that not everybody has those equations, because you have to know a lot to reach that level where you know the equation that's always going to work. Because sometimes equations work for some problems, but they won't work in the other case, and then you find very often rabbis say, see, even though here we do this, over there we don't do that. And that's the exact opposite of Rabbi Peretz's approach. And his approaches were very consistent. If we make blessings before over here, we're always going to make blessings before. I don't care what someone else's formula is. This is the formula we follow. And what I told my wife is, this is the brilliance of Rabbi Peretz. He doesn't teach us everything. He doesn't teach us everything. He teaches us how to come to conclusions. And what that means is that any other part of Shulchan Aruch that we learn, he's trained us already that when we come to look at the story, this is what we should be plugging in to this kind of equation. And that's why I tell you these things. Like, if you know that you would make a bracha here with Shem u'Malchut, fine. But now you know something else. You know a few things. Now you know what is Shem u'Malchut. Now you know there are two different opinions about Shem Malchut. Some say that it counts as a bracha. Some say that it counts for nothing. Right? You also know that Kabbalah, even though in action you're careful to fulfill what it says, if you want, but does it warrant a blessing to be made? Kabbalah?
No.
No, it's not that strong. Does it warrant getting rid of blessings that halakha allows you to make?
No.
No, it's not that strong. But these are things that people will get very confused about if they don't know these principles. And these are the important things to know. These things. These are the sodot. Sometimes we ask Rav Peretz questions like on details. Stop with the details. I'm not going to answer your question. Figure out halakha first. And then everything else falls into place. And the same thing is here. That guy that told me he's learning for smicha, of course he's going to know the laws of kashrut. Learning Shulchan Aruch is not so complicated. It says do this, don't do that. But he's never going to have a tradition from his rabbi, whoever that is, on how to learn halakha. Meaning, when I studied to be a rabbi, so you study X, Y, and Z. But when you're a practical rabbi in a community, people don't just ask you on X, Y, and Z. They ask you from like before the alphabet till after the alphabet.
Yeah.
And so how do you know how to learn then? And so that's what most rabbis tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Whereas by us, I'll say, I don't know what to tell you. I'm aware. Give me some time to look it up. And then I'll be able to tell you, I looked it up and this is what the conclusion I think I came to. And that's what I try to pass on here, and that's what we should be trying to, when you hear the details, so forget some of them. But these rules, write them down. Make sure you have them in your book, because this is the beauty of learning halakha together. And then it gives you tools. You're not dependent on other people to make your own decisions in halakha. You have the formula. If someone were to learn the laws of kashrut well, that was my goal with my book, Baruch Hashem. Bring people back to the point where they now understand why it's a big deal, why it's not such a big deal. Also, when it comes to... there's no kids here today. Family purity. if one were really to understand those halachot very well, not do this, don't do that, but like the source, the origins of every halakha, and you'd realize which of them were biblical, which of them were rabbinic, which of them are later customs, which of the things we do today the Shulchan Aruch didn't know about, which of the things we do today Shulchan Aruch knew about but told us it's a good thing to do, and he's encouraging you to do it, but what if you feel like you can't do it? So then what do? But because we don't give people those tools, and it's dangerous to teach people those tools, because if you don't trust the person, they can use those tools for all kinds of bad things. Obviously I trust everyone here, that's why we're talking about it. But to know that there are tools, and then suddenly everything makes sense, like everything falls into place. Everything, one makes more sense, one makes less sense, one... Okay. And then he says something very interesting over here. And this is another rule. Uvifat, especially that you can make a blessing on water that what?
It's in the morning.
When you use it in the morning, but which water? Which kind of water?
It's like the water you wash for bread.
Which water are you allowed to make? That?
Eat.
No, all of these things. Eating, morning. You make a blessing on what kind of water are we talking about? What's
Clean
the
water.
It's been covered. It's not an uncovered container.
Where?
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom. Very nice. This is what we're trying. We're figuring out the halakha now. Do we make a blessing on water that was in the bathroom if I have no other water? The answer is yes, you make the bracha. And yes, you make it with Hashem's name. Uvifrat, and especially b'mayim, water shehuchnasu, which came into the batei kiseh, to the bathrooms shebizmanenu, our bathrooms. What's the difference in our bathrooms and their bathrooms?
We don't have stored water in a vessel that's been sitting there. It's piped in.
Well, that's interesting about washing hands.
Right.
So here I think he's saying a water bottle in our bathroom. Let's say, imagine. What's different about our bathrooms than other bathrooms?
We have modern plumbing.
Which does what? Has what effect on the
Takes the
bathroom?
waste away.
Right, it's not...
Have waste in the bathroom.
Right.
Very nice. It's not actually there. It could be that much of this Ruach Ra'ah discussion specifically has to do with the fact when you're talking about a bathroom that's like olden day bathrooms, which is kind of like, what do they call
Outhouse,
those?
porta-potty.
The porta potties that they have. You stand like a mile away from them, you can still smell them.
Kaibo.
That kind of thing could be that serious Ruach Ra'ah. And even though we were not going to be presumptuous enough to get rid of this Kabbalistic notion completely in our bathrooms, for the simple reason that our bathrooms are not, they're cleaner, but not so clean. You still have to clean them every once in a while. You wouldn't eat off the toilet seat. I mean, they're just, it's not that clean. And so it could have like a minor Ruach Ra'ah effect, if you like to call it that. But what we're saying is, let's make a differentiation. Here there's Kabbalah, not just Kabbalah, but it also might not even apply in the kind of bathrooms that we're dealing with. And that's an important rule. See, somebody who learns Shulchan Aruch here will assume that when it says bathroom, and when I translate bathroom, it's the same bathroom. But you never stopped for a moment, not you, a person never stopped for a moment and said, maybe the bathroom's changed. Is it the halakha changed? The halakha didn't change. What changed? The situation in the bathroom. That's all. So would it be heretical to suggest that it changed? No. Other people who don't learn halakha properly will interpret it as, oh, you're trying to change Shulchan Aruch. It's not true. That's whenever someone tells you, it says in Shulchan Aruch like that. Yeah, but you didn't understand for a moment what it said in Shulchan Aruch to tell me that it's going to apply over here.
Right. Context.
A classic example. I don't mind being recorded. What I'm saying now is not going to be so bad. Imagine for a second this is my knife. This happens to be made out of stainless steel. See, the Shulchan Aruch tells you that if you slice meat with your knife, this knife now becomes suddenly it becomes meat, fleishik, right? Meaty. Let's say you wash it with soap, and you now cut cold carrots with it. What's the status of those carrots? They're clean. The knife is completely clean. It's been washed with soap, scrubbed, the whole thing.
They're also meat now, right? Because it's a sharp item.
No, the carrots are not sharp. They're parv. But what if I cut? You ever hear this?
Okay,
Onion,
okay.
or garlic, or some people want to say radishes or whatever else.
Yeah, sure.
What if I cut a hot pepper, or let's say a radish? Radish is the example Shulchan Aruch gives. I cut a radish with a knife. It's clean, but I cut the radish with a knife. Let's backtrack. What if those carrots are hot? Boiling hot. I slice the carrots with this knife. What's the status of the carrot?
Meat.
It's meat. Why?
because it was hot.
Because heat transfers
Flavor.
this flavor of the meat to the carrot. So talk to me now about the onion. The onion that's cold. It's not a
How
hot
about
onion.
the pressure of the knife, the sharp, the pressure of the knife
Oh.
was supposed to... That's a different story.
There are two things here. No, it's the same story. The onion is a sharp thing, and the knife putting pressure is also called duchka de sakina, the pressure of the knife. Both of those together, says Shulchan Aruch, create a situation in which that's almost like heat, and that transfers flavor from the knife into the onion. And so someone tells you today that if you use a meat knife that's clean to slice onions, those onions are now meat. By the way, according to them, their meat that, can you eat those with cheese?
Those carrots,
Those onions.
those onions.
Can you eat them with cheese?
You shouldn't be able to if they're meat.
No, you can't, right? Can you eat cheese afterwards?
You can eat cheese before.
Afterwards. Of course you
Oh,
can eat cheese before.
immediately afterwards. Huh?
Yeah. No.
You shouldn't be able to.
According to them, you're allowed to. Because that carrot is meat, but not actual meat. It's meat enough that you can't eat it with cheese. But not meat enough that you
But you have to treat it like meat.
have to wait now 3 hours or 6 hours or 5, whatever hours you wait afterwards.
Because it's not going to stick in your teeth and things like that.
Right? You're aware? Now I know that many people don't know this halakha. I'm not learning it according to me. According to them, that which we say the onion becomes meat, not meat enough to make you wait. Meat enough that you can't have it with cheese. It's a mistake. People don't know this halakha. How do I know? I once came to someone's house. I said, guys, you ordered pizza, so how come you're not eating it? Oh, we didn't realize we ordered the pizza, and then I didn't realize the onions that my wife cut for Surah Shlishit to put in the salad, she cut them with a meat knife. And so we can't eat pizza now till tomorrow morning, because you have to wait 6 hours now. And I said, but no, you don't have to wait. Oh, we know your halachas. We don't want to hear your halachas. I said, but my halachas you don't even want to know. But your halachot, they allow you because it's meat enough to not eat it with cheese, but not that you have to wait now 6 hours afterwards.
So it's according to Ashkenazi Shulchan.
Yeah, according to whoever holds of this opinion. So let's now
So
go.
what opinion is yours?
Oh, that's what we're going to get to right now.
What can I say specifically?
The Shulchan Aruch says this, yeah. Now let's bring about a different equation.
You're talking about cold stuff.
Right.
Hot stuff.
Talk to me about that onion.
And
This is a meat knife that I just used to cut a hot steak, and I cleaned it now with soap very well. It's clean. And I now cut this onion with it. Maybe I should go off record. What's the status of those onions?
Meat.
Why?
Because you cut the meat
it's
with
hot.
the knife. Yeah, it's a
And
hot
like
food.
a pepper.
It's like a hot food.
onion.
Why?
I don't know why,
if
but
it transfer the
this was
What did I say? Transfers the flavor. This is the first halakha in Shulchan Aruch about kashrut. Tam ki yikal. Flavor is what counts. So anything that transfers flavor is going to be a problem. If it doesn't transfer flavor, it's not a problem. That's the bottom line rule. Everyone agrees to this rule. Everybody. So now talk to me about flavor. Let's say I take this knife and I slice the onion. You're going to taste that steak in your onion?
No.
Don't be afraid. Are you going to taste that steak in your
No.
onion?
But if I will boil I don't know beef in a milkish pot, I also wouldn't taste any.
See, that I'm not willing to talk to you about on record.
Don't give milk either.
That I'm not willing to talk to you about on record. Some things we'll leave for off the record. On the record. That which the Shulchan Aruch says that a knife passes off flavor. Was he lying to us? Was he lying to us?
No.
How do I know he's not lying to us?
It's transcendental flavor.
Because Maran says flavor, passes off flavor. Maran's whole halakha in the Shulchan Aruch is, so how do you know if it transfers flavor? Maran says taste it. Taste the radish, taste the onion. How do you know it transfers flavor? It tastes like a piece of steak. Has anyone ever seen knives from before we invented stainless steel? You've been to a museum, you've seen
Yeah.
an old shchita knife.
Rusty, yeah, you see more
Very
kind of.
discolored and
You ever notice their surface, what it feels like, what it looks like?
There's also a rusty,
Very rough, very. Most similar to something like you know the ceramic pots you have inside your house, not the polished ones. That's what metal used to be like. Metal in its raw state is a very absorbent material, not because it itself absorbs, because it's not smooth, it's rough.
pitted.
And so Maran says, here's the thing: you slice something with it, so you cleaned it, but it still has flavor in there. So now you're going to cut something spicy, you're going to cut something hot, temperature-wise, that's going to pass on flavor.
Pass.
So along come some of our rabbis, and they tell us, we agree with Maran. Of course we agree with Maran. But what about a stainless steel knife? What about a stainless steel knife that has a smooth surface that doesn't absorb? If you would take this to the laboratory, after you cut a piece of steak, and you cleaned it, they couldn't find molecules of meat inside of your knife.
It's not that porous. It's not a piece of wood.
It's not
clay.
porous. The nature of stainless steel, why doesn't it rust? Why doesn't it rust?
You can't.
It's not porous. That's the whole thing. It doesn't go into the metal. So talk to me about a stainless steel knife. Why is the halakha still the same? Nobody said the halakha changed. No,
the
because
situation changed.
the situation changed.
People are afraid.
Would Maran tell me that this knife passes off flavor?
No, he wouldn't.
Maran is not a liar. It's the bottom of Maran is not a liar. Maran is not a diehard traditionalist. Maran would tell you it doesn't pass flavor. That's amazing. How'd you come up with a knife that doesn't pass flavor? He'd be blown away. The same way that Maran says if you use glass utensils, I don't care what you feel about it, but glass can never pass on flavor. You can't. Says Maran, so how could I ever tell you that glass becomes meat or milk or chametz or anything else? In which
If
case,
you go glass, you can just basically go switch back and forth meat.
first Faradim, not first Ashkenazim.
Yeah.
First Faradim. So now tell me about our knife. Did the halakha change?
No.
No, the situation changed.
Right.
But what I'm saying sounds pretty heretical. And it's not. It's really not. It means that someone really understood Shulchan Aruch when they taught us as halakha.
Yeah.
It sounds heretical because we have conservative Judaism,
Oh,
which says that we can change halacha according to times, and so if you say something like that, people immediately will say, "Oh, it sounds
good.
like conservative."
I'll tell you, I once said that I can forgive Reform and Conservative Judaism for everything they've done. Everything. I forgive them for it. Except for the fact that they created Orthodox Judaism. I don't forgive them for that ever. Because you used to live in a world where the rabbis came to a decision, they didn't have to worry that someone was going to accuse them of being reformed. There was no such thing as being reformed. What does it mean? We just came to a halachic decision.
It meant you were.
Do you know how many times in our history our rabbis have made earth-shattering decisions?
And everybody just
And
agreed.
everyone's like, Kol hakavod, bravo, we're so happy you did it. In the last 300 years, we've been so afraid of these people that we never want to be one accused of looking like Reform or conservative or any other break-off of Judaism. And we never want to give people the ability to think that maybe we're going to let them be so open-minded that they'll become like that. And so we've developed some kind of crazy Judaism. But what I said is not radical. Someone who knows Shulchan Aruch, knows, really understands, not just read and learned and took tests. Rabbi Dov Lior, he just decided yesterday he's stepping down from his job. He, for the last 37 years, been the chief rabbi of Hebron, Kiryat Arba. He's a big religious Zionist rabbi.
Survived?
What?
He survived all the attacks.
Everything. He's now decided he has to pass on the baton to someone younger than him, someone who's able to be more dynamic. He's going to move to Jerusalem proper. It's a very Arabic neighborhood. I guess it runs in your blood when you're the chief rabbi of Hebron. And Rabbi Lior is a very good friend of Rabbi Peretz. Very good friend. Also happens to be very courageous. He knows that nobody cares about it, and that nobody likes him anyways, so he says the things that nobody else wants to hear. And Rav Dov Lior writes in one of his books that in his opinion, stainless steel is like glass. Don't tell your wife.
What do you say?
Stainless steel is like glass. Normal steel is not, but stainless steel is like glass. In which he feels that you could use them for meat and milk and everything without kashering them in between.
But it's not actually right.
Let's hear.
Because, yeah, the knife itself is like a glass, but the edge,
Which edge?
after sharpener, when you sharpen it, it's not, like a glass. It's porous.
Where?
The cutting edge.
It can get serrated, or if you look through an electron microscope, you'll see.
Not electron microscope, you see.
The magnifying glass, you can see it, yeah.
It's not,
On a knife that you sharpen?
No.
Rough is okay. It's allowed to be rough. It doesn't have to be smooth. It just can be absorbent.
Right. Okay, got it.
It's allowed to be rough.
What's this idea of taking a knife and sticking it in the ground?
It's today's equivalent of washing it with soap and the sponge.
It's still
Oh, okay.
famous.
Yeah.
So, understand.
So now here's the thing. I once asked Rav Pelitz. And he said, listen, of course I agree. Of course. He said, but there's certain things that you have to wait for the bigger guns to say, because this is not worth getting in trouble for.
Right.
It's just a pot. It's just a knife. There are bigger things we should get in trouble for. And so Rav Pelitz, he's of the opinion that he writes in his books. It's like a tricky language. He says, our metal today absorbs only a minute amount. I used that in my book also. In which Rav Pelitz says, comes a situation in front of you about kashrut that a competent rabbi would never tell you that you can use stainless steel things for meat and milk. But he would take that knowledge into consideration before he says that your food isn't kosher.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely a fact you can rely on, even though ideally you don't tell people to do such a thing. You understand what I'm telling you?
There's an edge there.
It's like a middle ground. We're waiting. We'll get there. We'll get there. B'ezrat Hashem.
I mean,
But-
same knife, you can use it for milk, you can for milk. And
Technically. Not ideally. Technically. I mean, if someone were to call me up and say, I used this knife to cut that, and it was clean,
There's a difference between telling you that you can use that, that you can do it, go ahead and go home and use that knife, versus you coming to Rabbi saying, oops, I used this stainless steel knife to cut the cheese, then I cut the meat, now here's the cholent, is it okay? Now, he's not going to tell
are
you
you
to
aware
waste
that
the
there are
cholent,
rabbis
throw
that
it
would
away.
tell you that you can't eat that food?
You have to throw it in the
And
garbage.
they make on Erev Shabbat a wife throw away the whole pot of food?
Yeah.
So who are you? It's fine you want to be strict and you want to be careful, but you have to be competent also. You have to make sure that you're not wasting people's money. You're not wasting people. I mean, there were countries of our rabbis that where they would say something's not kosher, they would come to the person's house and bring them money to pay for whatever they decided wasn't kosher. That way they wouldn't be so
that
quick
was
to
amazing.
make a decision to say, oh, it's not kosher. A lot of rabbis, I hear them, no, it's not kosher. No. Careful, weigh your words before you say something's not kosher. Not doing it ideally is very different than not kosher.
Yeah.
You're aware? So nobody go home and start using stainless steel for everything. But be aware that there's another element now in the world of kashrut, and it's not an element that comes from changing halakha. Nobody reformed halakha. Rather, our situation, the kind of metal that we have in our world is different. Like glass. There are some kinds of glass that I would tell you are not as good as real glass. There's some really cheap glass out there that has all kinds of other stuff in there and things. And you shouldn't be so quick that every glass is just... If you have glass and you use it once, then you realize that it becomes red because you put something red inside of it, and you're washing it, chlorine it, nothing comes out. Chances are that glass you shouldn't be using now for something that's not. It's a fact. It's not that someone's promising you glass will never absorb. You have to check. Does glass absorb? And if the glass that you have doesn't absorb, so come on.
And this comparison, theoretical and ideal way, how it applies to glad kosher and kosher meat. Ideally, we eat glad kosher now, right? And for example, if you in the middle of, let's say, Montana or somewhere,
they get everything. I went to Montana.
Okay, so he's in Oklahoma. Who knows?
Idaho Falls, Idaho. That's for sure. There's no Jews, no
Coeur d'Alene,
kosher
Idaho.
meat,
You got just a
nothing.
bunch.
But they have, let's say,
rednecks and-
Hebrew national sausages. Can you eat it?
it's like this. This depends if you're Ashkenazi or
Triangle cake.
if you're Ashkenazi or if you're Sephardic.
Sephardic. And what's the difference?
Here's what I'll tell you.
Everybody glad kosher now, right?
In America, not in Israel. In Israel, Ashkenazim don't eat glad kosher. Only
If I
the
would be Israeli, I for sure can eat triangle K sausage.
No, if you were Israeli and Ashkenazi, you would eat triangle K. Just like 50 years ago, in this country, the Ashkenazim didn't keep Glat kosher. It's a new thing that Ashkenazim are doing Glat kosher. In Europe, they didn't keep Glat kosher. They didn't even have the opportunity to keep Glat kosher. How many cows can you throw away before you're going to decide to eat one? You have like this. According to Ashkenazim,
They didn't throw the cow, they use it for the non-kosher item southern.
that's today's
if you're
trick.
the seller, how
They
many of those?
don't throw any cow.
Today.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't like that in the shtetl. That was your cow, you raised it, you bought it, you fed it, you hoped that it was going to be good, and then it becomes not glad on you.
They might only have 50 cows in the whole
They have the
province.
luxury, they would have starved to death.
So that's like this.
Get a train.
According to Ashkenazim, glat is an ideal, but if you don't have the ability to eat glat, you are allowed to eat meat that's not glat. According to Ashkenazim. Even though today the standard in the Ashkenazi community, Baruch Hashem, is to be glat,
Right.
they don't have to if they don't have the choice. According to Sfaradim, glat is not an option. Meat that is not glat is not kosher at all. According to Maran, meat that's not glat would make your pot not kosher. You would have to kasher it afterwards. And therefore, for Sfaradim, tough luck. Tough luck. We don't have a choice.
Vegan. Yes.
Right, Sprouts. They sell like, vegan meat, vegan this, vegan cheese, all kinds of things like that. Let's keep going here. What I was trying to show you is an example of places where the halakha didn't change. The reality around the halakha changed. And a person who refuses to change halakha, that's a good thing. A beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But don't refuse to accept the fact that the world around us changes.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about people and their social desires. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like facts, reality, science, the
New
world.
materials come out.
New things.
New technologies.
Plastic came out. The question was, do we tovel plastic?
Right.
Some rabbis say, yeah, we tovel everything that you can melt down and reshape, like metal, like glass, like...
You don't have to hold plastic.
Why not? Some rabbis say you have to tovel plastic.
I start holding all the time. I said,
Don't tovel plastic. No, it's a waste
no,
of...
you don't have to do it.
Also
You don't-
ceramic. People who tovel ceramic, they're wasting water from the mikveh.
Water and everything.
So,
But you're not even to save it up and take it with your metal stuff.
metal and glass. No.
Wait, I thought totaling was for ownership, not for the substance. So you own the new plastic, wouldn't you?
It's not about ownership. It's about.
It's not about ownership.
It's about Mekadesh, right? It's about.
It's about making, we believe that the food that we eat, the things we eat on a different level than the rest of the world. We see eating as a holy thing.
Right.
Could be, this, the Ramban seems to, not Rambam, Ramban seems to suggest, I have this in my book somewhere. The Ramban seems to suggest like, just like when someone wants to become Jewish, they would go to the mikvah. Why? They were okay when they were not. But now we're accepting the fact that we have now come to a different level in our use, and everyone else can do whatever they want. But for us, it's the same thing as we buy a new utensil. It's kind of like you're putting it in the mikvah so that it becomes a holier thing to be used.
It's a spiritual phase change.
It could be. I'm just suggesting this is not a halachic truth, but maybe on a philosophical level, it could be that this is the reason that Maran writes if a non-Jew cooks in your utensils, you'd have to rekasher them. Because he holds that...
With or without you watching? Like even if you're maid, is there... You mean like with you not watching?
Not according to Shulchan Aruch. Watching doesn't help anything. By the
Start the
way.
light.
Really?
So
No,
watching...
All those restaurants are not really cooking.
So the non-Jew doing the cooking is enough of the problem.
problem.
Yeah,
Start the
Mishkiach,
light.
not...
Turn off the light. After that you can cook.
Big thing.
For Sfaradim, the Jew has to be cooking the food. It doesn't make a difference who turn on... The goy can turn on the light. What do I care who turn on the light? It doesn't make a difference.
This is party.
According to the Ashkenazim, it doesn't make a difference who cooks. It makes a difference who turned on the fire. Even though most Ashkenazim disagree with that Ashkenazi halakha. The Vilna Gaon says this halakha that all the Ashkenazim follow is based on the Ramah. And the Vilna Gaon says the Ramah made a mistake. He says, I can prove to you, says the Vilna Gaon, that the Ramah's logic doesn't line up with halakha. The Taz, the Ashkenazi rabbi, the Turei Zahav says the same thing. They all rejected the Ramah's reasoning. And my only question is, okay, so you want to follow the Ramah, you're Ashkenazi, good. But all the other stringencies you took on yourself, this can be one of them? The one that not only Maran said it isn't good, but also the Vilna Gaon and the Taz both said don't rely on the Ashkenazim for? And it's crazy. I don't know why we have so many stringencies in restaurants except for this one.
Right.
I know why. It costs more money to hire Jews. and people don't want to waste money. You know how
Vilna Gaon said,
you
just to be clear about what they're saying, Vilna Gaon Taz, they all said they're only Jews can do the cooking.
Right.
Nobody
Yes.
can.
You know how few kosher problems, how much fewer kosher problems we would have if the people running our kitchens would be Jewish?
Right.
Have you ever thought about it for a moment? When I used to do Hashgacha in Israel, you're talking about like 40, 50 Arabs are running your kitchen.
That's terrible. Like
They're
you said,
cooking your food, they're putting out the things, they're doing the shopping there. So of course there's one mashgiach who's checking all this stuff. But how much do you expect this guy to be able to watch?
Yeah.
How much do you expect? Even if he's there the whole time.
At some point, he's going to zone out. He's going to, look at
All
his
those
fingernails.
Arabs.
I know, who promised you that they're not doing all kinds of other things to you? I don't know. Maybe they're good people. I'm not telling you they're bad.
I think in the old city though, at that square,
There are Jews
that
working in that
restaurant
restaurant.
corner, everyone in there is Jewish.
Right.
Yeah.
There's such a restaurant. It's a good thing. Practically, it could be hard. Maybe it's
So
a
why don't they have
factory
like
in
a
China.
sign, like an extra, you just like your ABC. Why not just have like a, J, like we know Jewish people.
Rabbi
cook here.
Masas, Rabbi Shalom Masas, the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Shalom. He writes that a restaurant cannot call itself Mahadrin unless the people who cook the food are Jewish. It's because you're lying, because it's not a Mahadrin restaurant. He said, you're following an opinion, that's lenient, it's fine, but don't pretend that you're now the strictest restaurant on the block.
Oh, so you see like this Mahadrin, Le Mahadrin.
Rabbi Masas was so of the opinion that this is important. Rabbi Masas, when he was the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim, put into the rules, nobody listened to him. Because you only listen to the chief rabbi when it's convenient. Rabbi Masas wrote that a restaurant that has non-Jews cooking the food on a fire that a Jew turned on, like the Ashkenazim, has to have a sign up on the wall saying, this restaurant is not kosher for Sfaradim and many Ashkenazim. And if it doesn't have the sign up, and if they sell to people who are Sfaradim, he says, you have to ask people, are you Sephardic? And if they say yes, and you sell them, then you should take away their kosher certificate. People said, Rabbi Masas, you're just a fanatic, and they shouldn't. But that's how important he felt this halakha
You can
was.
find some other rabbi to get.
That's what they did. They found a different rabbi. But to stop pretending that you're so kosher.
But he was Sephardi, right? So
He was the
had
chief
every
rabbi in
right to say
Morocco
that.
before he came to
Yeah, so
Israel.
he had every right to say
And that's the irony that you can get
Absolutely.
like a Moroccan restaurant and asking for a cheap Ashkenazi keksher to go there.
that. Right.
And it's not, I'm not taking away the Ashkenazim have other stringencies that maybe we should learn from them, maybe. But this is one of those things that the Ashkenazim who are strict about everything under the sun. So at least take this stringency. It's in the Shulchan Aruch, it's in the Rambam, it's in the Gemara. It's not a... Why rely on the most lenient opinion in the book, especially when there are Ashkenazi rabbis who discredit this opinion? It's an interesting thing to me. I don't know why. Okay. Says...
Because they study Gemara and not Halakha.
I don't know why. I don't know what to tell you. It's hard for me because when I go to Israel, there's so many kosher restaurants, but really there are not so many kosher restaurants.
Those are some kosher restaurants open on Saturdays.
I'm very careful when I go to restaurants, and it's harder in Israel. People don't know me, so like, who are you? What do you think you are? Come to my restaurant, tell me where to cook, tell me. Here, I'm very lucky that where I eat here, so people know who I am. So respect the fact that either I want to go to the kitchen or that the owner of the place should go cook my food for me.
We need to give you an app.
They help me out.
You go to a restaurant, we can follow.
Oh, I see. So you can like go to the grill.
I go and I say, do you mind if the
wait longer?
Jewish guy,
Yeah.
can he put the food on the fire for me? Can he be the one to grill the steak instead of somebody else? Or whatever. And I go to Boaz, and Boaz is almost always there, so he goes back there, puts the fries in, or Osher does it, or whoever else. If not, I'll do it. What?
Better job than Mexican.
Bella could take a break.
People think I work there when I come. It's like, oh, can you put art? No, I don't work here. I just cooking my own food that I'm paying for. Right? It's a funny thing, but there's one guy that every time I go to the certain restaurant, not in San Diego, a place that I go, and the mashgiach behind the counter, every time he makes fun of me that I do it. He tells me that I'm what do you call me once?
Fanatic.
No, he told me that in India they have a caste system.
Caste.
A caste system, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And that you're not allowed to eat the food from somebody else because they're not good enough for you, whatever. So he told me that I'm the same thing. I come in there thinking that non-Jews are evil and they're bad, I don't want to eat their food. I said, you are going to such places. You're the mashgiach. Like, you're not the human rights activist over here in the restaurant. You're the... Okay, what can you do with this world?
So if a restaurant doesn't have a Jew at all times watching,
Like many dairy
Really?
restaurants.
Yeah, like that Mexico. I saw only Pedro and Jose and.
Well, that's how you keep the authentic experience going on over there.
Okay.
Don't eat the worm.
Mexican seasoning in my food.
Listen, the Ashkenazim have on who to rely. We don't.
Yeah.
That's one thing we don't. We don't.
Okay.
You want to eat rice on Pesach, good, but then keep the rest of the year our halachot also. It's an important thing.
So according to you, we cannot go to restaurants?
We can.
But there is no restaurant.
Just-
In this city, all the restaurants, Jewish people, you can ask.
Right.
You go to the restaurant, and almost every kosher restaurant I've been to, I've had a good experience. You ask them
just one.
There's two.
the grill, and you have the place
Yes.
by the JCC.
Ah, okay.
Just order Coke.
Both of
or
them,
Pepsi.
both of them. No, both of them you ask and say, please, do you mind
Please,
if
from the Jewish
if
person.
the Jewish person is the one who puts it on the food. And you don't have to tell the waiter that. That's not nice.
Just go to the grill. you
Go
know.
over to the thing, or go to the boss and ask him, or if it doesn't work, tell him I'm a student of Rabbi Yoni. They already know. I make problems all the time. It's true. It could be then in New York or LA where they don't know you. It's
I'm
going
just
to
Rabbi
be.
Yoni. Can you cook it Yoni style?
I'll tell you that and Yashan. I would go. I know that all these restaurants have certifications, but if I could go and just put up a paper for free, I wouldn't charge them anything. And say, in this place, if you're Sephardic, you could ask one for the Jew to cook the food for you, meaning it's a Jew-cooked approved restaurant. You have that option.
Yeah.
And two, Buzz things. So now they're not Yashan, the baguettes, those things. But his pitot are Yashan. He brings Yashan pitot from LA. Because in LA, a lot of things are Yashan.
Right.
So it's not fair that they don't let people know that there is, if you want to eat there is a Yashan option.
And
After
Yashan
the
and non-Yashan doesn't there's no transmitting of flavor or problem. It's like a mixing,
This is where I use our stainless steel leniency. You know what?
Yeah.
They're dry things. They're not.
If someone says, "Oh, can you toast my bun or whatever," and then you say, "Can you toast my pita?" It's like not really.
Use the Yeshin toaster only, please.
So if you
Can you use the Yoni toaster?
Hadash floor, and is it made your utensils not kosher?
I wouldn't take it that far. Could be Rabbi Peretz would. I didn't ask him ever. I wouldn't take it that far.
So Rabbi, about bread, even if it's Pat Israel,
Pat Israel is useless.
right? So
Because,
how do you know that the
I'll tell you
bread
why.
is
I'll tell you why it's useless. Because no Jews in our history kept Pat Israel.
No, but so how do we know that
It's
the
an-
bread is Yashan?
So Pat Yisrael is like invented last year type of thing.
No, it was invented at the times of the Talmud as one of the things we don't eat from non-Jews. One of them is bread.
Right.
And then in the Talmud, our rabbis they reversed their ruling. They took it back. So the Rambam Maran, they bring these things down as something you could try to be strict about if you want. But even they agree that bread that's baked at a bakery doesn't fall into the prohibition of bread that you're not allowed to eat. Because you don't know the baker, you're not going to come to marry him, you're not going to marry his daughters, you're not going to do anything like that. In which case, all of our rabbis in our history ate bread that was baked by non-Jews. All of them. And the easy fix, this is different than food. By bread, if you take that bread and you bring it home and you toast it, it's now became Pat Yisrael. Because you added to the cooking of that bread. Not like food. Food, the moment it passes the level where it's edible, that you can't fix it anymore. But bread is not like that. So really anybody can buy any bread they want and just put it in the toaster and make it Pat Yisrael. But people don't want to know these things. They'd rather make their lives
Set me
difficult.
free.
How about non-kosher? Can you do that to
Don't get me in trouble, Simon. What?
Can you do that with like bread that's not certified kosher? Bring home toasted?
No.
You don't have to. Why does it have to be? I'm telling you, you don't have to keep Pat Yisrael. But if you want to keep Pat Yisrael, that's your easy fix.
No,
It has to be
like
kosher,
if I
sorry.
want to go to Whole Foods and get a... Well, I can't use that because they used to have kosher bread,
Right.
but...
You have to look there and see how they make their bread. In our history, all of your grandparents bought bread from people who are not kosher bakers. It's a fact of life.
But those
Get
bakers would, and there wasn't a concern that those bakers throw it in the secret sauce and stuff. It
Yeah.
was basically they were.
Trust me that
it would be
then
bad for
there was
business if
more
they-
of a chance they would be throwing in secret
So, like,
sauces than today.
Flavored breads today and things like that.
Then
They
there was
need a-
more
they
than
need a
today.
whole
Yeah.